Hi, my name is Chris Baker with Baker DMM, and this is our Video Digest newsletter. The topic of today's newsletter is going to be sometimes we need a little protection. And before we jump into our discussion, I want to read you some statistics. They state a 2010 study gauged it as a $3 billion a year, and a 2015 study suggested annual losses to be as high as $36 billion. When these losses occur, family or public sources of funds often have to support day-to-day expenses and medical care. Since older adults generally are not working, they cannot rebuild their lifetime savings after making an unsuitable financial decision or being a victim of fraud or exploitation. And this information came from the Metlife Mature Market Institute and TrueLink research studies. And they really point out that financial fraud and elder abuse, exploitation, it's a major and massive problem. And I'm going to go into a few different real-life case studies of ours, of clients of ours. And the problem that we want to address are people that are vulnerable, people that have physical or cognitive impairments, typically people that are aging or disabled people, and helping, as the title says, help protect them, help protecting their financial resources, and identifying that issue, and then helping talk through some of the possible solutions to that, and really what is the key to helping these people protect their funds. And from our standpoint, what we do as a business, one way to kind of view it is almost like it's like a doctor house call. So a lot of times when we work with people in the community, we're actually, particularly in the beginning stages when we're getting to know a client and their family or their caretakers, we're actually going to them. We're going to their home. It's almost like a house call, like an old school doctor that used to travel to the home. We're going to their home, wherever they live or wherever they would like us to meet them. And we're going to them, and we're helping gather their financial data, their financial world, helping bring organization to that world, figure out what's going wrong, what's not being paid or what's late, what's delinquent, who's taking what's being mismanaged. And then we can start making sense out of things, start straightening everything out, start holding people accountable, start reporting on their finances, and then hopefully get to a point where we can stop the bleeding, so to speak, help these people to stop losing their money. And in some cases, maybe even help them try to get some of that money back, and then move into a position where we're helping, maintain things and helping make sure that their accounts are accounted for. We know what's going in, we know what's going out, and we're basically protecting their money and bringing peace of mind, not only to the elder, to the senior, to the disabled person, but also to their loved ones, their family, their close friends, or the other people that are intimately involved in their lives. And it benefits everybody, as the statistics stated. Not only if someone gets taken advantage of in their later years, and they're not able to go back to work, or maybe they're disabled or they have some sort of impairment where they can't go back and work, well, somebody's going to have to take care of them. And a lot of times that falls on the family, which then stresses and strains the family resources. And then if there's no family, or if the family's unable to do it, then it goes to the government. Well, guess what? If it's the government taking care of them, and that money just doesn't fall out of a tree, taxpayers pay that. So it goes full circle. So it benefits everybody to help prevent financial fraud and elder abuse. And thinking through some of our client examples and cases, I'd hate to say it, but from our standpoint and people that we've worked with, it's almost everybody at some point or some form, shape, or way is getting taken advantage of, or someone tries to take advantage of them. And it runs the gamut on all. No one's everybody's out in the open. It's fair game, level playing field, no matter who it is. It could be a family member. I think of one example where we started working with a woman who had Parkinson's disease. She lost her husband, and we were introduced to her through a social worker. And early on, she said, "Look, I think my daughter's stealing from me." And in the beginning, we didn't see anything. But then this lady went to the hospital. She had a stroke. She was recovering in the hospital. And then all of a sudden, we see money being taken out of her account. And we didn't know who was doing it because she was in the hospital. Turns out it was her daughter. Had to call the Adult Protective Services in that particular case to help notify that daughter like, hey, people know what you're doing, you better quit or you're going to go to jail. Another example of a client that was in his 60s, he was a stroke victim, and he, for the most part, manages money. But after his stroke, he had his real bad short-term memory loss, and we've been helping him for a couple years now, 3 years. And he had a home that he had been trying to sell, but he really couldn't make any progress with it. He just didn't have the right help in place. Well, after we started working with him, we got things organized, started helping him kind of make sense of his financial world, and finally got to selling his house. Well, when we got to selling his house, we actually found a potential buyer. It was in the process of being sold. And then we found out that he had a $25,000 late water bill, a past due water bill to the city government. So this is a government entity that was basically telling this person, our client, that, hey, you owe us the $25,000, and if when you sell your home, we're going to take that money. Well, the client, even through the cognitive difficulties and the memory loss stuff from the stroke, he said, look, I've dealt with this. This isn't right. I've had the repairs. I've got documentation. I've done my part of the deal. This is wrong. This is an error in billing. And so we did our research. We worked with, called his insurance company, called his plumber, got all of his documents lined up. We did a little bit of research in the neighborhood. Come to find out there were some other water leaks in the neighborhood. We actually found out there was a luxury condo high-rise not even a half mile down the street from his apartment or his house. And they hadn't paid their water bill in 15 years. They owed the city $3.5 million. We took all this information, put it into a format, a reportable format, and called our city councilman, actually who I knew, and we made a case. We said, look, this guy, he doesn't have much money. He's not going backward. He's disabled. He's not a high net worth individual. He's, if anything, lower middle class, lower affluent, and he needs this money. And sure enough, we presented the case. We talked to the city, and they reduced the water bill from $25,000 to essentially $1,000. And this particular guy had a tenant living in another portion of the house that he rented. They split it, so it cost him basically $500 instead of the $25,000. So we've got a family member, we've got a government entity. There's another example where we had a person that was suffering from various physical illnesses and even a little bit of substance abuse problems. They were in and out of the hospital a lot. Well, they were released from the hospital. This was late 2017, and they got a ride, hospital organized ride between one of the share Lyft, Uber, Lyft type taxi services. And this particular client befriended the driver. And all of a sudden, this guy becomes her new best friend. Well, as we all know, or most of us, that nothing in life comes for free. Well, they become buddy-buddy. She thinks she's going to start saving money because this guy's willing to help her for free all day. Well, come to find out, long story short, he wasn't helping her for free. He became friends with her, and he did help her a little bit in the beginning, but pretty soon after that, she entrusted him with a debit card and a credit card. Well, sure enough, a few days go by, a few weeks, get in almost into a month. Well, this guy had spent $3,000 of this woman's money. And luckily, we were there monitoring this activity. We checked in with our client. We said, hey, is this you? What's this? Where was this expense? Are you doing all this? Because it looked a little unusual compared to the previous month's activity. And she said, well, that's familiar, but that's not. And she was a little bit hesitant to really finger point the guy because she kind of liked the companionship. This particular person really didn't have many family or friends around. But we explained to her, you should be hiring if you're going to pay, you should be hiring a professional, whether it's home care, transportation, medical care, therapy, counseling. It should be coming from a professional, either licensed or a professional business. This in particular case, which we communicated to our client and kind of shook him up and woke him up a little bit, was this person stealing from you, and it took a little bit. even after our first phone call, I remember she kind of wasn't really in belief. She was just like, oh, whatever. But the next day we spoke again, and she was pissed off. She was upset. She said, look, I can't believe he did this. This is wrong, and I want to cut it off. This is it. I'm done. And she was really upset. And I felt bad for her, but I was happy to hear that she had kind of turned the corner and came to her senses, like, this person's stealing from me. So in that particular case, canceled credit cards, debit cards, cut everything off, contact the Adult Protective Services, and made a report in that particular situation. So at this point, we've got an example from a family member, we've got an example from the government, and we've got an example of just a random person out in the community. And now, the last example I want to cover is actually, more from a professional provider. We had a particular client a couple years ago that had moved into a retirement community, and they had a home that they were no longer living in, and they didn't have room in their new retirement community for all their belongings. So they were in the process of basically winding down their home, selling their home, and really trying to go through a lot of their belongings to either donate or to sell or to move into their new home, or in some cases even throw things out. And when we were connected to this particular person pretty early on by an elder care attorney that said, hey, they're in their new community, but they need some help. It's getting to be too much for them to handle on a day-to-day basis. And so we get in there, and pretty early on, we actually visited their home to kind of see get a lay of the land. And they'd been working with a professional organizer, and we kind of just got to know the organizer a little bit, and said, okay, well, what are you doing to the home? Like, what's going on? What are our goals? Well, they had been doing a lot of work there, but they really hadn't been making a lot of progress as far as distributing the belongings, whether it was donating, selling, throwing out. There was a lot of movement, but there wasn't anything being accomplished, so to speak. And we had reviewed the last couple of their bills, and it turned out the last couple of months they had charged this particular client like $3,000 per month. And when I talked to the attorney, we analyzed what they've been charged, how many people have been helping, and then what exactly had been done, and kind of put it on a time frame. And we looked at our clients' resources and what their net worth was. Again, middle class, lower middle class, affluent person, have some savings, have some investments, but by no means are they worth tens of millions of dollars. And they really couldn't afford to keep paying these large bills every month in the thousands of dollars. And when I talked to the elder care attorney, we both agreed that we thought it was elder abuse. This person was taking advantage of someone who really wasn't able to defend themselves, wasn't able to really speak up for themselves. And in the end, we're just burning up the clock just to make a big kind of a big sale and pad their billable hours for the month. And in that case, we both just politely and professionally asked this person in their company to just no, we didn't need their services anymore for this client, and that they could move on and just end the relationship. So it comes down, again, the problem is people needing protection, particularly people that are aging, people with disabilities. The solution is having someone in place, a very trusted resource to monitor these people's accounts, have all their data organized, have their, be reviewing their financial accounts, generating financial statements, understanding their financial position. And this can come from, a family member, a trusted friend, a trusted business like a Baker DMM. But it has to be, you have to have an airtight relationship. They have to be professional. They have to know what they're doing. And you just have to trust them. And everybody needs to be held accountable, in doing this, because it's a very touchy subject. It's personal finance. It's a taboo subject pretty much for everybody in our culture. And the accountability has to be there. Transparency has to be there. And when you want to work with these people, you want to do your due diligence. You want to ask them, well, how do they report? Do they have insurance? What are their experiences? And these questions could be asked to anybody. I mean, whether it's family, friends, another business, these are all things to keep in mind when you're choosing to work with someone, whether it's a family, a loved one, or whoever that may be. And again, pointing out through the examples that we've discussed, Unfortunately, this issue of financial fraud and elder exploitation or abuse, I mean, it can come from anybody and anywhere. It doesn't matter. It could be a government. It could be a nonprofit. It could be a for-profit. It could be family. It could be anybody. No one is off the hook. And, and we had mentioned the case earlier about the professional organizer. There's a ton of wonderful organizers out there. It's a great service, a great industry. We've worked with other professional organizers that do a great job, and particularly important for people that are aging, that are winding down, that are moving to smaller spaces, and moving service companies. We're definitely are not knocking any particular industry out there. It's just, making light that in this particular case, they were being taken advantage of by this company. But everybody, financial professionals, whether it's daily money managers, investment, tax, financial planning, other CPAs, everybody it's open game. And when you meet with these people, either for yourself or for your loved ones, you need to vet them. You need to ask them questions, ask them for referrals, their experience, their history, their credentials. Who are they licensed with? Are they with any state agencies? And and you start digging into these questions. And you'll start to gain more comfort that you're actually hiring and getting competent people to work for you and with you. So if you found this information interesting or helpful, please feel free to share it on your social media channels. This could be with your family or friends or whoever you think might benefit from viewing the information. If you ever have a question you'd like for me to answer directly in one of our newsletters, go to our website, www.bakerdmm.com. Scroll to the bottom, fill out your information, write a few sentences about your question, and I'll try to answer that in one of our upcoming newsletters. And if you'd ever like to get my help personally and directly, go to our website, scroll to the top, you'll find our phone number as well as a request an appointment button. And if you'd like to book a direct phone consulting session, scroll to the bottom and click on the PayPal button and enter your information. With any of these options, I'll be in touch with you in 24 to 48 hours to confirm and schedule our appointment. Until then, I will talk to you all soon.